Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to crumble!
I'm Joshua Kemble, and welcome to Joshua Kemble's Livestream. I've been a freelance illustrator and graphic designer for over 20 years. I was an art director for 9 years. And when I'm not art directing and working on illustrations and graphic designs, I'm working on comic books and graphic novels, and that's usually what I do during my streams. And while conversations can go all over the place on this stream, from spicy and entertaining to goofy and silly, one thing stays consistent throughout every stream. I'll always be working on art. So pull up a chair, get your art supplies out, and get ready for an entertaining show that'll keep you company while you work on your own personal art projects. This is Joshua Kemble's Art Stream. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 305 of my live stream. It's a really good day. I had a really good meeting with my literary agency, which was cool. We're going to move forward with a pitch, which I'm really excited about, with an author that I was a fan of as a kid and also has sold quite a few books and has written a really amazing script. And so hopefully our pitch will go well. We're kind of in the process of all that, like kind of ironing it out, how we're going to roll it out and stuff like that. But successful meeting, which was kind of cool. And I'll share more as I'm able with that, assuming anything comes from it, which is kind of cool. And I have a good feeling about the whole project. So that's cool. That's exciting. Today on the show, what we're going to be working on is page 79. Page 79. Jim Lujan said, "What's shaking, Cobra Commander?" Nothing much. Just leading the Cobras to take over the Joes, okay? We're taking them down. We're taking down those G.I. Joes. Yeah, so today we're going to be basically working on flat coloring, page 79, the page that will not die. It's a crazy page. I started working on flat colors while watching Christopher Runsman's amazing live stream today. I'm going to go ahead and turn off this music. It's a bit much now. Anyhow, nice intro music, though. I'm digging the intro music. Hopefully you guys are too. So we're going to be working on flat coloring, and I just feel an overwhelming sense of optimism. And again, you know, I've talked about this on the last stream. You know, what quite often happens in life is every once in a while you have opportunities come up and you either say yes or no to them. And I'm saying yes to one. And the downside of getting excited about an opportunity is you're going to feel disappointed if it doesn't work out. The upside to feeling optimistic is you're going to feel disappointed if it doesn't work out. So why not enjoy the world of possibilities when it opens up? To me, I'm a big fan of celebrating good news, and so far it's really good news, good movement, good momentum on it, and I have faith in it. So I'm pretty excited about that news, and I can't wait to get going on the pitch. But in the meantime, I have a book deal that I have to get done. So we're going to work on that. Badoom. Oh my goodness. Look at that. We didn't have the page pulled up. I was feeling all cocky, feeling like I got this live streaming thing down. Okay, there's the page we're working on. So there's the reference that we kind of looked at to build this art from. It's just a reference of what the actual location looks like. And so I'm going to be using that to kind of come up with colors, because that's definitely the colors of the actual item, of the actual building. And so, and then we just get to build out this beautiful stage and kind of make it work. So that's what we're going to be working on. A very long, tedious process of color filling this crazy scene. And a lot of this will go relatively quick when it comes to like the details, like the gold elements and the buildings in general. And then I'm thinking the way I'm going to approach it with all the figures is we might actually go in there with the pencil tool, because that makes aliased selections of color, and we might go in there and kind of select with that. So again, like if this were traditionally inked, it would go a lot quicker. I've mentioned that like 79 pages of this that I've been live streaming during. Um, the color selection process would go a lot quicker if this were more traditionally done. But because I'm using anti-aliased lines to get that kind of pencil look, it means that I have to manually select my flats rather than just use like the magic wand tool or something to that extent. But still basically the same premise. The upside is because there's all this rendering on the top, once the flats are laid in, most of the colors are pretty much done, especially because this is an interior page. And I don't know if we're going to add a light source. I think we might just stick with the dark tones to kind of keep the ominous tones, creeping ominous. That was a tongue twister that I was making for myself. So anyhow, I'm in a good mood though today. I'm going to be going to see Oppenheimer, which is like the first movie I've seen in the movie theaters in quite a few years. And I'm actually excited just to get out of the house and spend a few hours like not working, because I've been working pretty intensely. I don't know if it shows on this page, but this page in particular has taken up a lot of my time. And then, job hunt stuff, um, you know, other such things, life stuff, all that stuff has just been having me kind of work just nonstop. So I like work, sleep, work, sleep, work, sleep. And so it'll be really good for me to have a day off to just kind of go see a movie or something. So 6:30, I think that'll be like a 3-hour film from what I've heard. A lot of people have recommended it, but we're gonna go see Oppenheimer, and that should be pretty fun. So I'm going to see that with my brother-in-law. And then other than that, I'm just feeling energized about this book, about the pitch that I'm going to be building. I feel like it has a lot of potential, which is really exciting. And it's going to be really challenging too. And I like that. I don't know if this makes sense, but it's like as an artist, there is like a really interest to me. There's always an interest to work on a project that's going to be a challenge to work on. And that's one of the things that I'd like to just kind of make an effort to kind of stay out. Sorry, my phone is kind of going off right now. So, but that's something I want to make an effort to kind of approach, is like projects that are a little challenging. Like it's not just the same. I think that was one of the interests in this script that I'm working on in general, is the idea that it would be a real challenge because it's historical fiction and I've never done historical fiction before. Like I've done historical referenced illustrations, but I had never done a full sequential narrative that has to take place in a different time era. And in this case, it should be pretty interesting because it's a bit of a sci-fi, although it's still very slice of life. It's kind of hard to explain without getting into details, but I think that the fantastical elements of it are going to be a real challenge to illustrate, and also visually really interesting, and might cause me to kind of have to work outside of like a set style, which again, like to me is that's a selling point. That's a selling point for me to be involved in a project. Um, how are you doing out there? What are you guys working on? I'd love to hear it. We had a really great stream last night where Philip Chandler and Christopher Runciman, who you might recognize because I play little promos throughout of my work, and both of them have been kind enough to provide me with like a little promotional video that I can play on my breaks when I'm live streaming. And let's see, I want this to be a little more saturated. And the thing that was great about them coming on was we had some really cool conversations just about everything in general, ranging from biting the heads off of chickens to to like some really old school animation knowledge that I've garnered throughout the years from knowing animators. And obviously, Philip has definitely got a wealth of knowledge about, due to his time. His status is like a veteran who actually worked in the studio system, which is way further in animation than I've ever, experienced. And it was fun. We talked about a lot of interesting things. Some of it, like the more kind of controversial stuff that animators talk about behind closed doors, like The Thief and the Cobbler, which if you haven't looked into, you should look at. It'll make you side-eye Disney a little bit. Kind of give them a little, I don't know. Even though I love Disney, it's like there's some interesting stories I've gathered throughout the years from animators and stuff like that. Um, uh, so anyhow, so there's yeah, we talked about like Ebb Iwerks and like test films, and how sometimes like the test pencils for animated sequences are more beautiful than the final result. It was a really good conversation, and it was great to talk to Philip and Christopher, both who are artists I really look up to and appreciate, and both who've been really big supporters of my live streams and my channel for a long time. So it's much appreciated to have them on last night. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, we're basically just going through and doing the works. Um, and I'm guessing I'll probably be live streaming. I would guess till probably about 5, maybe, which is when I might, need to like eat dinner or something like that. But I plan on live streaming for a bit. And yeah, it's kind of weird how there's an energy you get from like the momentum and the possibility of a project that's new. It's just like a really exciting thing. Roddy McDowell says, "I will subscribe." Thanks, Roddy. I appreciate that. Subscriptions are always very much appreciated. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to kind of see what comes out of this new project. The last few years have been an interesting ride for me. I don't know if I talk about it too much. Basically, long story short, I had just kind of labored away on these indie graphic novels on the side while I was an illustrator. And then, at a certain point, like took a full-time art direction position because I had gotten some traction in the illustration and graphic design field. But and I had done some like short comics and stuff like that. But for like the longest time, it felt like the industry just didn't want to publish my stuff. It was like this weird thing. And a lot of doors opened for me a couple years back when I got my literary agent. And subsequently, like 2 books that I had completed have gotten publishing deals. And now I'm on a 3rd book that has a publishing deal. And it's kind of like this momentum that's been just kind of moving. And a lot of it has been really just like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of hard work behind it, but a lot of it's just been sort of like following these little inklings, like the project that we're going to be pitching, where it's like, if you have the time and ability, putting out that, like casting that fishing line for potential like comic gigs is, something I want to get in the habit of like constantly doing, because the last thing you want to do is lose momentum when you're experiencing it as a creative. And I feel like the last few years things have been really moving forward professionally, at least on a comic level. So it's hard not to like, I know like a lot of people see uh fate or something like that in things that are occurring in ways that maybe aren't so realistic, where they'll like think it's like God moving or something like that. Like or fate is like moving in a direction, and they might very well be like deluded and potentially might make like some really damaging decisions. I don't think this is the case for me. I think like things have been kind of moving progressively on a train that's heading somewhere, and I can't help but think it's in a very positive direction, um, if not a new direction. So, so yeah, it's kind of tough when you're dealing with these kind of projects because I can't get into like heavy specifics, which I know is like not fun for people always to like hear. Where it's like, hey, there's this potential cool thing coming down the pipeline, but I feel like things are building towards something really positive, and at a time where I really do need some positive movement, and potentially need a future revenue source and stuff. So Paul said, "I just quit my job for today. Gotta go back tomorrow." Nice. Um, but yeah, it was interesting. Well, congrats on the temporary. It sounds like that's almost a frequent occurrence, Paul. It's like every day you go home from work and you're like, "Man, I quit," and they're like, "All right, see you tomorrow." You're like, "Yeah, see you tomorrow." Um, but yeah, anyhow, like it feels like a lot of threads. Gary said thoughts and prayers. But it feels like a lot of threads have been moving in a specific direction, and it's just like at this point, it's really a matter of trying to be smart about things, but also pursue possibilities when they arise, especially if they feel like possibilities that are pretty epic. So, yeah, so that's a long-winded way of saying I feel kind of reinvigorated and validated in a weird way by like, why am I spending so much time on this book? Would be like one of the doubts that kind of comes up. Um, and it's like I'm starting to feel validated. Like, no, the time that I'm putting in is like a pretty good investment and might actually end up leading to something really cool. So, um, and again, like I'm not talking like leading to wealth, but I'm just talking about like opportunities that I didn't see arising, even at the start of this whole thing. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. I want that ball to not be the same red. I was gonna have it be the same red, but I think we need balls that aren't red here. Have fun with that one, Paul. Paul said, "Got to walk upstairs and work on my own comic." Nice. You should work on your comic. Everyone should work on their comic. Then Gary and I won't be alone in our torment. How's the script coming, Gary? I'm kind of curious. It was fun to hear. It's always fun to see Christopher working. He's a real positive force, and I appreciate that about him. Paul said, "Oh, I'm having fun with it." So let's see here. So I think I feel like it's been a really interesting day, but I also like, again, it's like nice to have these little moments of subtle validation when you're in the thick of a project. It's hard to explain, but it's like we spend so much time working on this stuff, and often it feels kind of thankless, oddly enough, and it's easy to kind of fall down a path of like feeling like, no one cares, like that kind of stuff. Um, and it is really nice. I don't know if people who are not artists are aware of like how much like those little validations matter to a creative. Um, and so like, yeah, it's kind of been a fun day of just feeling pretty good, pretty validated, and I feel like my parking fee is going to be a lot less because I got validation today. There's my joke for the day. I'm here all day, guys. So yeah, so we're gonna draw this lady. She's really far in the distance here, so a lot of this is going to be kind of implied. Like this is actually like this section here is kind of like more like webbing almost on the side of her costume. And then I think this would be okay. I think we're good. And I think she's going to have kind of more brown hair or maybe auburn hair. Let's see if we can kind of get there. And I think what I'm going to aim to do here is to just get I'm just going to aim to get this part kind of done. And just try to kind of get the flats and stuff in. Sorry about that. I was kind of focusing on this color. I'm not sure if I want this to be too auburn because it's going to be against. So maybe we make her a little bit lighter. There we go. I think that'll work. So what this is going to look like with the shading is I think pretty cool, right? I'm really happy with how this page is coming out. We might add like a very slight bit of light source coming from those little lamps. But in the meantime, I think other than getting in just the flats of this character, I think we'll worry about the crowd and stuff like that a little bit later after the fact. But for now, I think the most important thing is going to be just kind of getting the broader flats in the room other than this main focus. I might also at some point do we might also do a little bit like I might color Robert and Elizabeth too in the crowd just so they stand out a little bit. And their color is consistent just for anybody who might be looking. They're barely noticeable here, right? They're like literally here, but I think at least having that color consistency would be nice for anybody who's kind of looking for those little consistencies. So now we're gonna do. He has like a black cape and a black costume. So I want to do just probably the old comic trick with color, where you're either using really deep blues or deep purples. Make your deep purple jokes now, or forever hold your peace. But yeah, so that's kind of what I think I'm gonna do. Like I might use like a very saturated blue. Let's see how that looks with the shading. It's gonna be interesting to see. Yeah, I think that might be too saturated. Okay, so we might have to go back. Let's go backwards a little bit. I think I'm going to actually look at this one with the shading when I'm making the color choice. So I want to kind of indicate that this is black, not blue. So we're going to go with like more of a gray and maybe turn the lightness down a little. Ah, there we go. And we'll go like a totally different direction with the a new direction even with the pants and the cape because he's wearing like a cape and pants. I know, Paul. It's a character wearing pants. I know. There's an on-running joke in Runciman streams about Paul Pate and pants. Let's see here. So now all we need to do is get the shoes, and I think I'll just have the shoes match the shirt. And these are like very pixelated little details. But again, I think these details are really going to pay off when you see the final page, because there's going to be like these subtle indications of what's going on here. The one thing I want to do also is probably establish the table and the chairs. So the table is going to be kind of like a similar thing, where the table will be here, and we're going to be kind of maybe lowering the saturation. Actually, I kind of like it at that tone. So we'll have the table here, and the chairs will be this kind of dark brown. And I think what we might also do is throw in we'll figure out the cups, but I feel like the cups should be a different color as well. We'll kind of have to figure that out as we go. This brown also might need to be lightened up. We'll see. How does that look? Might be too dark. I think that actually works. Okay. So then we're going to do lighter cups. I feel like the balls maybe should be orange, honestly. Oh, man. I think I think these could be more in the we'll see. We'll see what we can do here for color. So I'd be curious to kind of hear what you guys are working on. I'd imagine that Paul is probably working on one of his Detective Perez books. That's what I would imagine. I like the idea of this being almost yellow. That would actually be really a good color choice here for the cups. How's that working? Yeah, that's kind of working. I'm really liking how this looks. This is really starting to work when the flat colors get laid in there. I think for the lady, I think her black could actually match his like that could actually match his cape. And then we'll have the black arm because that's webbing, but it's being indicated by flat color because it's so far away. Maybe I'll have that let's see. Maybe I'll have that arm portion be just like a lighter shade of that exact color. So it kind of almost looks like the webbing from a distance on her shoulder. And so I think that'll do our stage. And we're starting to get there for the flat colors on this crazy page. So that's the main focus, is the area we just colored. And now it's about kind of building it out from there. So give me 2 seconds. We're going to play the trailer for 2 stories. And then we'll be right back, and we're going to continue coloring this page. And hopefully I can get some coffee to get through a little more of this beast of a page. Before we do, though, let's go ahead and take the parts that we've colored, or that we haven't colored yet. And those we're going to kind of have this way. I also realize somehow these other panels lost their selections. Let's go ahead and turn off that reference. And this will be magenta too. So everything that hasn't been done yet is in magenta. And we should be able to kind of pick this out, save. Now we'll play our trailer for Jacob's Apartment, and I'll be right back. If you guys haven't yet, since this stream is going, make sure you hit that like button. It really goes a long way to help this stream get to more people and have more views after the fact. And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing or hitting the bell so you get notifications when we go live. And here's the Jacob's Apartment trailer. Clearly it seems that only in dreams can we these things we've seen and walk around breathing things. I don't know the part to play in this heart of mine. There's dissonant things, they split at the seams. So welcome back. We're working on page 79 of Not Death But Love, the strange supernatural story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, the historical fiction and graphic novel for Turner Publishing that I'm illustrating. And we are working our way through it very slowly. And that's just the nature of this kind of thing. So I do have a beautiful reference here of the building. And that's actually, was a huge help when we ended up drawing it. But right here, I'm going to be basically looking at this for color fills, flat color areas, and we're just going to be taking it one thing at a time. So right now I'm seeing that there's like this gold kind of thing up here. And so this area, the next section we're going to be kind of deselecting is the gold trim on the roof. And again, once you see the shading, it's like looking really cool, in my opinion. So I feel like the hard work and labor kind of put into this is slowly paying off. I find this a lot with comic pages, where the ones that you really struggle with quite often are the ones you look back on like, hey, that was like a pretty cool page, Whereas I think sometimes the ones that come easy, like they're okay. I'm not saying none of the good ones come easy, but in general, like when you get that notion as an artist to really push something, like in this case, my absurd idea that I'm going to draw every single person in this crowd scene, I think, yeah, it kind of ends up paying off at the end of the day. Jim said, let's see. He said, always all this chat and no mention of MEU, SMH. I forgot that today is Befriend an MEU day. We're supposed to make friends with somebody struggling with MEU and let them know hashtag MEU is me and you. And I had forgotten about that, Jim. I apologize for not mentioning that. Let's see here. So we have Philip saying, "Hey there, everyone. How's it going, Philip? I was just talking about how nice it was to have you on stream the other day." I don't know if you're aware of this, Philip, but Gary has been throwing out thoughts and prayers to everybody in the chat, like very valuable thoughts and prayers. I don't know if you were aware, but if you need them, Gary's here. He's giving them out. Okay, so we have this lovely section being kind of slowly filled out here. And like, to me, again, I'm approaching this from the same way that I would approach the crowd scene, where at first this is just going to seem really tedious and I have to just do one step at a time. And then eventually, this is all going to start coming to into its own. Now, I know technically the theater, it looks like the roof was white, like within these little enclaves, but I kind of think it would be more impactful if we have the roof actually this color, this minty blue that like they have the interiors done with, because I think it's going to create more of a dynamic kind of vibe, which is I think that's officially what it's called, is a dynamic vibe. I know all the heavy art terms, guys. But yeah, so I feel like this is going to kind of create better dimension for this as we go forward. And what I'm trying to do, since this is a somewhat symmetrical room, is I'm going to just do all the rooms. And I might even flat color over the characters, and then we might go in and pencil tool in the small details of every single person in this room, which was going to be the nightmare part of this flat coloring. Philip said, "For what? I think I'm good." And then he said, "Unless he meant tots and pears. I could always use some tots and pears." Tots and pears are amazing. I like tater tots and I like pears. Okay, so we have this all going. And we're going to kind of see where we go from here. So now I think we go back to, I think the gold trim's all taken care of for this area. Now I think we're going to go to, I think we'll go to white again. It's going to be kind of interesting to see what we do here, actually. But we're going to go to white. And, or do we go to gold? I'm wondering. Okay, I think we'll do a gold band again and then white. And I want to see if the tops of these are gold or white. I think they tend to be gold on the front. Okay, interesting. So we have a few things to deselect here, which is 1, 2, and then 1, 2, and we just kind of continue from there. To our crazy crowd scene. Jim said, "By the way, prayer towels were a real thing in the 80s. One of those religious channels." That's crazy. I bet it's like the 700 Club or something. No, it's funny. I'm definitely, even coming from somebody who, like me, I actually do believe there's power in prayer. And, but I think that is one of the worst things you can say to somebody when they're struggling with something. I do think it's valuable to have people praying for you and stuff like that. Like, I actually do think that's helpful. And it's always hard because it's like I pray for friends and stuff like that, but it's always hard for me to know how to say I'm praying for somebody who's going through something, because I know how like meaningless that can sound to people if you're like, "Hey, thoughts and prayers, buddy," and it's like, well, I mean, that's easy said, Um, it's like an easy commitment, to tell somebody, and it could be fairly meaningless to that person. Now, prayer towels and televangelism is one of my biggest pet peeves in the world. It's like things like that. I think I saw a thing a long time ago of a televangelist literally selling vials of water, and I think they were saying they were like vials of like Christ's tears or something. It's like it's crazy the things people will come up with to try to like profit off of, other people's belief. So I wouldn't discount the prayer towel idea. I feel like, Jim, you should make some unicornian towels. You know what I mean? I want to see some Jim Lujan unicornian towels. Does Society 6 do towels, Jim? That would be incredible. I still need to cover that song. I promised Jim I would cover the John Henry Unicorn song. And it's like right up my alley too, because it sounds a lot like The Greatest Adventure. It's like in that zone, and I can go to that zone, pretty handily head to that territory. If we want to head there, that's a direction I can go. Um, but I still owe Jim that. I still owe you, man. So I think some of these loops, what would Chris call them? Bits and bobs here. I think some of these are going to I might need to color hold, because I don't think that's going to read well if that's like fully gold. So these little loops that we're seeing, I think I'll color hold, which is like where you paint over the line. And I'm almost wondering if I should do that as I go, so it's less of a pain to kind of find later on. Let's see here. No, we'll do the color holds after, because the color holds might also be a little overkill. Okay, now I want to see what comes next. I think next is white. And I think from there we're good. So I think the next portion is white. Jim said, "A towel for my brow as I take a bow, the crowd getting loud, feeling proud. How do you like me now?" Wow. That was a poem, Jim. There was a Nas song that has "How You Like Me Now," but I can't sing the rest of it because I would get canceled on YouTube. But it was a song about a gun. And it's one of the better Nas songs, actually. He like raps from the point of view of a gun that's being like passed around a bad neighborhood. And it's pretty good. It's a pretty solid hip hop song for the ages of the Nas. I think it was on It Was Written, which is pretty good. LL Cool Jim, says Paul. Jim is LL Cool. So here we're going to get into it, right? We're going to basically just do this very slow process of going through and deselecting and then moving on to the next, and then going through and deselecting and moving on to the next. It's very tedious. But again, I think the results will be worth it. If I get bored with this doing the bigger areas of color, I can always just go and fill in Robert and Elizabeth, because they need to get some love here for color fills. But I think till then, we're just gonna work our way through this whole room. And I think I'm gonna try to ignore the figures. There's also drapes kind of hidden in the background, so we're gonna go ahead and work on those. Maybe we'll do each figure as we go, just to make it go quicker, because that'll seem like it's taking longer, but I think that that'll actually expedite the process. So I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to actually work our way through each figure rather than paint them in at the end, because I think painting them in at the end will actually be more work than it's worth. Because strangely, while we're doing this like deselection, it's going to be like a lot quicker to just kind of pick stuff. I'm going to go check on my dog. Our little chihuahua is kind of like crying, and I'm not sure why. I think it's probably because he's like probably standing at the door waiting for permission to like leave. He gets kind of weirded out by doorways sometimes, so I'll be right back. What's up, Scotch? What's going on, bud? What do you want? What do you want? What is going on with you? Why are you crying? All right. Have this little guy. Maybe I'll just let him chill on my lap for a little bit, because he seems kind of weirded out and scared. So I'd rather he just relax and kind of chill. Do you guys want to see a cute chihuahua? Here, check this guy out. You see him? He's pretty awesome. It's a pretty rad little chihuahua. Yeah. How's it going? Was that weird? All right. So we have the chihuahua situation under control, at least temporarily. We'll see if I can work with a chihuahua on my lap. I've tried working before with Bernie on my lap, and it didn't work out so hot. So we'll see how it goes with the chihuahua. Yeah, it's okay, bud. You're okay. You're okay. Here, I'll move that cord up so it's less crazy. Nice. EPM Jim. Nice. Eric B and Raw Jim. Nice. Jim Tang. A Tribe Called Jim. We could keep going. Run DM Jim. It's gonna, like, what it would need to start out with is stuff that kind of could potentially sound like Jim, And then by the end of it, it's just adding Jim to any hip hop band or hip hop. Nice. I like Liu Tang Clan. That's pretty good. Paul said MC Jimmer. I like that. Vanilla Jim. I was trying to think of like a Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch thing. I guess you could do like Luhan Lu and the. I don't know where that would go. That was going somewhere. Feel free to. Oh, Jim and M is good. Jim and M is good. We're doing hip hop names of Jim Luhan, you guys. We also have a tiny little chihuahua who was feeling nervous and is like now resting on my lap. I don't know why he's scratching at me though. What's going on, Chihuahua? What is going on, my dude? So yeah, this is going to be a beast to get through, but I'm actually very excited about uh again, like the progress on this page is pretty cool. And we're just going to gradually work our way through the selections. So I'd love to hear how your projects are going. Jim said it's a pleasure beast to get through. Nice. Pleasure Beast, for anybody who hasn't watched it, was a movie that I was fortunate enough to play a cool pastor in. Jim had me do the voice of the cool pastor in Pleasure Beast. And I think of all of Jim's movies thus far, I'm guessing that The Full Fungus might take this title. But so far, I think Pleasure Beast is a close second to my favorite Jim Lujan song. There's something really funny about that song. Gonna be your pleasure beast. But I think my all-time favorite is still the Brevian hip hop. It's still my favorite Jim Lujan song. It's just the Brevian, something about Brevian rap speaks to my soul. Jim said, just finished a bowling segment for Fuller Fungus. Still needs some refining, but I can send you a sneak peek. Nice. Sounds exciting. And I think the dog is now calm. He's resting on my arm. So that's good. See, there's a little a little chihuahua resting on my arm this whole time. I think that's kind of awesome. We're just kind of doing this interior now of the kind of mint colored room. and beams and stuff that are behind in the room, and then we'll kind of work our way from there. I think Jim might have sent me a sneak peek of something, which I will have to check out. Kind of excited to see it. Let me see. Okay, I'll have to check out the Gopher. I'm going to check out that sneak peek, Jim, shortly. Okay, I think we're kind of good. We're at the hour mark. So what we're going to do is, again, we're going to take the areas that haven't been color filled. We're going to fill them with magenta. Slowly but surely, we're going to get through this beast of a room. And it's looking pretty darn good once that shading is overlaid over it. So, oh, nice. Jim said when the full fungus is released, the puller known as the gopher snake will be a household sports. The bowler known as the gopher snake will be a household sports icon. I believe so, Jim. The gopher snake bits that I've seen, and then Runciman's lines regarding the gopher snake are going to be pretty gold, I think. All right, so we're going to take a real quick break. And when I come back, we will continue to battle it out with this page from hell. So I will see you guys in a second. Here, speaking of Jim Lujan, is Jim Lujan's Wordzoid ad.
Well, Peter, since I'm such a big music fan, I'm going to have to go with Karen Carpenter. Oh, Stu, I'm sorry. That's the incorrect answer. Trish, what you got for us?
I'm going to go with Kim Gordon.
All right, let's check that answer. Kim Gordon. Do we have a Kim Gordon?
Yes, and that means you're our new Wordzoid champion, Trish. Dale, tell Trish what she's won. Trish, you've won a copy of 2 stories, a memoir of faith and mental illness. Handwritten, hand-drawn, and handed to you by artist and writer Joshua Kemble. But wait, that's not all. You've also won a copy of Jacob's Apartment, the story of a doomed romance. What happens when you take Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and put it in a blender with Ghost World? You get Jacob's Apartment, written and illustrated by Joshua Kemble. Trish, thank you for playing Wordzoid.
All right, great job, Trish.
I was told I was going to get a lifetime supply of paper towels.
All right, I'm back and I have hiccups apparently. So I'm going to be seeing Oppenheimer, and I don't want to hear any spoilers. But what was, for those of you in chat who have seen it, what was your opinion without giving away any details? Like thumbs up, thumbs down? Let's see here. So I think what I'm going to do is now I'm going to start kind of filling in some of the character details while filling in some of the extras. Gary said he loved it. That's awesome. That's good to hear. Gary, given your film taste, I actually suspect I'll probably like it then. Because I think we're kind of aligned on films. You know, films, not movies like the civilians watch, but films, real, you know, real to real films. You know what's bizarre? I've known a couple like movie critics in my lifetime, and I've never met one that was like a total snob. Like, I know it's weird. It's like there's that kind of typical like joke about the critic who's like, this is amazing food. Oh, this food is so delicious, and there's that kind of cliche. But the weird thing is, like, most critics that I've met are like pretty chill people who like really love movies, and they're kind of just, geeks. Like, they're nice people. However, I've definitely had times, like, particularly where like people have done like reviews of my work that, like, it was pretty clear they weren't like, here's to me okay, there's a couple signs to me of somebody who's acting in good faith. um a good example of this is like, you read a review and somebody makes a fair critique of your work, and maybe you don't agree with it, but it like has to do with like the story points or the artwork or something like that, and it's like it's very much based around the work you made. That's, pretty valid, and that's kind of what you want to see with criticism. I have read some reviews sometimes that get like super personal, and they're like, oh, clearly this person blah blah blah, and you're like, whoa, like, why that? um Nothing to do with the art or the story. They're just like a personal kind of critique, and you get the vibe that like the critics just wanting to take pot shots at you as a human being. um to me, that's a sign of kind of bad faith, is like somebody only insulting the artist and not the art. um and to me, like, a sign of a good critique is it's usually very focused on the story itself or the lack of story itself. And that's kind of like, to me, like a really good review. um I would say the same with like discussions. Like, I feel like you can get in good faith discussions with people as long as they're okay with disagreement. um it's impossible, in my opinion, to talk politics with someone who, at the sign of disagreement, will take it as like an insult, like that like, because your viewpoint doesn't completely align with theirs, suddenly it's a personal attack. I think that's like my barometer of like good faith to bad faith, is like like to me, an artist who couldn't take criticism would be an artist who can't handle like a formal discussion of a story. Like, where you're like, yeah, it was kind of weak in this one area. Like, if you're an artist that can't kind of have a allow for like objective opinions of your work that maybe you disagree with, you know and again, I'm not like a big fan of like criticism or anything like that, but I'm just saying it's like there's good faith artists that can be critiqued, and then there's good faith critics that are sincerely looking to critique in like a fair way. Similarly, like, you can get in good faith conversations with people um about like some pretty heavy topics, as long as there's kind of a mutual understanding that, like, while there might be disagreements, there might even be passion behind those disagreements. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. Like, it's not about you, it's about ideas. And I think if you can engage in that kind of thing on either way, um I think there's like a responsibility for both parties, like both the critic and the artist, in those realms. I don't know if that makes sense, to like try to kind of keep it good faith. But I feel like it goes bad real quick if you're like, let's say you're trying to critique and you're dealing with an artist who any criticism, like, I've experienced this teaching, where sometimes you teach and there's an artist that's just not ready to hear any criticism. And yet they've paid to go to college, to like get critiqued and get better. And in those cases, it's like, dude, somebody saying like this arm is off, or like the perspective is off, or whatever it is not like an insult. It's literally why you're going to art school, is to hear how to get better. And so, like, there's a necessity to analyze work, so that people can improve. Gary said, my only critique of Oppenheimer applies to most of Nolan's movies and some other directors, which is I think the score can be obtrusive. I will say I have seen Nolan movies where it's kind of hard to follow the dialogue because like the mixing is just for like maximum impact of sound. And yet like it's like sometimes at the cost of story, which to me is like that would be my biggest criticism of Nolan. I love his style and you know, I'm kind of eager to see what he does with this, but yeah, that would be a criticism that I could see. Like even having not seen the movie yet, that has been a problem for me with his stuff, for sure. Paul said any good political discussion should devolve into personal insults. Well, no, like the thing I think is sad with I think it's sad when people can't tell the difference between good faith and bad faith discussions. And it's kind of like I think it's like the art thing where it's like sometimes someone is critiquing not out of hatred but just out of like pure this is what I felt about the thing. And sometimes people aren't expressing like an opposing view just to say you're an awful person or something. Sometimes they just have an opposing view. And it's hard to have an opposing view or have a discussion with somebody. Like for instance, here's a good example. Gary Hodges sent me his script for 1979 to get criticism and like just for me to look over it and say, hey, what do you think? Like are there things that can be punched up, that kind of thing. And I wrote some really I think like I considered it and I tried to give him as much feedback as I could, like honestly, but I didn't feel afraid to do that with Gary because Gary has shown himself to be somebody who, especially because he was presenting it in a way of like, I'm not done with this script, so just go wild. Like, let me know what you think. And I had a feeling like Gary is not going to need me to hedge what I say. He wants to hear criticism. The good, the bad, the ugly. And he probably knows I'm going to be good faith about it. And so it's like, it's actually possible for me to do that. Whereas there are other artists that, might ask me for a critique. And I wouldn't give them a real critique because of past responses to critique where it's like, somebody's like, hey, what do you think about this? And it was clear, oh, they just wanted somebody to just say, hey, this is great, So I don't know where I'm going with this. It's just a thought as I'm color filling here. But my point is because Gary has shown openness to like actually wanting feedback and stuff like that, it's so possible to give him honest feedback and spend the time to actually like, read his script and look through it and see where I can see weak points, what I would change and stuff like that. But it doesn't mean he should change it. And he kind of gets that. So like it's worth the time investment. Whereas there's some personalities where if they showed me a script, I'd be like, I don't know if I'd give them like much feedback because like they just wouldn't want it. Like they're saying they want it, but in the past and like future, it's like, oh, it's pretty clear. Like you're not ready to actually have this real meaty or kind of discussion, not meaty or like a meteor. Now, keep in mind also, I think that there's a valid time and place for that, right? Like when somebody's finished a work and it's published and you're a friend, I think it's okay to maybe give them a little bit of feedback. Maybe it's not all positive, but in general, at that point, just be supportive, because like the thing's out, the money's already been spent on it. You know what I mean? But like if somebody's working on something or something in progress, it's like, I think receptivity to it is important. And similarly, like if you want to get in a back and forth, I've just been thinking about this because I was realizing like there are some people I can have really deep disagreements with, and we retain friendship and civility. And I realized that like that's the common thread is they don't kind of dish out what they can't take. Like they don't tend to go, here's what I think politically, and then aren't able to hear an opposing viewpoint. You know what I mean? Whereas like there's some people that like you just cannot talk about that kind of stuff with, because the second there's a viewpoint that's not one they agree with, it's like then it gets into like straight up personal attacks. And it's like taken as a personal attack. Like you don't think the same as me. How dare you? Um and in those cases it's like I'm starting to get better at learning, you know, in those cases, maybe that discussion just isn't worth having. Similar to like an artist who's not ready to hear, you know, critique of their anatomy in a drawing saying, hey, can you critique my anatomy? Sometimes it's just better to go, yeah, it's good. You know, like, or just go, you know, yeah. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah, Gary said, after Josh got me his feedback, I blocked him on Facebook and we've never spoken again. But I hope that makes sense. It's like if I like the people I trust to edit my stuff, I really trust them to give me their honest take. And like I'm not always going to agree with everything they say, but it's like part of that is like I try really hard not to be like crazy defensive and impossible to work with in those cases, because the thing is when you are that way, then you end up kind of shutting down the potential of valid criticism. Yeah. So anyhow, I don't know what made me think of that, but that was something. Let's see here. I want this top part to be gold as well. And I'm trying to figure out if these railings are gold. So I got to figure that out. I think the railings are white, but let's... Oh my goodness. And again, we can take some liberties with it too. But since it's an actual historic location, I want to kind of stay as true as possible to it. Okay, it looks like the railing tops. Fascinating. It looks like the top of the railing. Top of the morning to you. I've told you guys about Kendrick Lamar's Top of the Morning. If you guys haven't looked that up, you should look it up. It's kind of amazing. It's like this very kind of postmodern thing he did in a hip hop song, and it became kind of a meme. Paul was saying, was that during our disagreement arc? Oh, that was a harsh war between Gary and I. We were completely unable to agree. It was kind of crazy. Just nonstop disagreements between the two of us. Shots were fired. People lost lives. It was a bloody war. It was like the East Coast West Coast battle, the disagreement arc between Gary Hodges and myself. It will go down in legends. History books will tell of the disagreement arc. But no, so like Gary is a good faith person in general, like in his approach to these kind of things. And so like if somebody like Gary is like, hey, give me feedback, I'm gonna give them feedback, you know. And they've kind of earned that by like their sort of good faith behavior. But I feel like it gets real bad faith if, like, let's say I hypothetically, this didn't happen, but let's say I gave Gary my feedback and he was just like, well, you're just wrong and you suck. and how dare you insult my work like that? And you're like, whoa, like, then if Gary and I were still friends, and he approached me again and was like, hey, I have a script, can you look it over? I'd be like, maybe I'd agree, but pretty much my feedback would just be like, yeah, it's great. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. I feel like that staying good faith about things buys you the ability to continue those kind of exchanges. Let's see here. And that at the end of the day has a lot of value. I don't know why I was thinking of this in regards to criticism. I'm just letting my mind go all over the place today. This is slowly but surely going to get colored. Whew. This page though is like the beast from hell. it's an awfully challenging page. I think I'm going to get in there and give them eyeballs. They're going to have balls in their eyes. Got to give them the balls. Okay, there we go. And again, just kind of taking out the little flesh tones from the image. And it's kind of bizarre because it's like, at this point, even though these are high resolution, these are such small details that, it's pretty much like pixel art up close, let's see here. Go ahead and color this in. Kind of like the idea of this shirt being kind of broader. Maybe he'll be wearing like a dark brown. And maybe she'll okay, never mind. This is going to be potentially white up here. And then we'll do... see like a lighter... There we go. She's going to be a blonde. And then this will be like a different tone of color. So for anyone who might be curious, I'm using the hue saturation tool to go through and kind of adjust flat colors as I go. Paul said, I was telling him the other day that I'm going to do a full color poster size crowd scene for my book and then take pieces of it as backgrounds inside the book. Smart. I dig it. We're going to do think here I'm going to do a somewhat black hat here. The band's going to be just a little bit lighter. We're going to have our face. We're going to add our little eyeball whites here. It's going to go over to here. And then this part should be white. The part to the left or the right should be red. How's everybody's projects coming along? It sounds like Jim's making good progress on the full fungus, which is really cool. I'm very excited about that. I can't wait to see what Jim is cooking up there. Everything I've seen so far sounds great. The soundtrack sounds really convincing. If you guys haven't yet, that Jim does a show called Hey Man, How's Your Movie Going? Where he'll kind of show like behind the scenes stuff of his movie that he's working on called The Full Fungus. And he's played like some little sneak peek samples of what the music for the film's going to sound like. And it is so cool. It's kind of amazing. The thing I really dig about Jim is when he does a soundtrack, even if he's emulating like a certain sound, he gets so authentic with it. And I don't know if I've talked about this on stream before, but I have this whole theory about humor and authenticity. Where I feel like the root of really good humor is usually somewhat authentic. And so to me, like the best kind of stuff to have really effective humor usually gets like part of what makes it funny is it's like so close to an actual thing. Like to me, if somebody's trying to do a parody or something, not that Jim I don't think does too many parodies, but the point being, like if you're doing a parody, you really want it to feel like the time and care was put into it, that the thing that you're parodying did. It makes it 50 times funnier. There's like a authentic approach to things that I think makes jokes land quite a bit more. Also, there's like this rule of comedy, which is the more you talk about comedy, the funnier it is. I'm joking because I'm making the cardinal sin of explaining comedy. But hey, I'm not a comedian, so. But I do think that's one thing I really like. Like if Jim does like an ad for like a fake beer called Old Gold or something, it really like the music sounds like legit like a beer company song. I mean, that's part of what makes it so funny, because it's like it just sounds so authentic. You want the American flavor, and it's got this whole just humor to it. That does not go unnoticed. Okay, I think, is there any sort of trim around the doorway? Kind of don't think there is, other than what we've already noted. So I think this is all going to go to white. Are the doorways colored? I think the doorways are white too. Yes. Okay. Good. So this whole section back here goes to white. And we have finished a wall, a tiny wall in the horrific, never-ending page that will not die. It's like the song that never ends, but this is the panel that will never die. But I'm glad I made the decision to actually do the characters as I go, because I think that's going to keep it interesting for me. And honestly, that's important, because if you get bored when you're working on art, it starts to look bored. So, okay, here we go. Gonna color fill what I haven't filled in magenta. We're getting closer. So we still have all the magenta parts left, but we're a little bit further along. Gary said the next D versus M, I will most likely take place in a forest, and I'm hoping that'll make backgrounds easier. I might spend a week drawing various trees, creating assets, and drag and drop them in backgrounds. So that's smart. Paul was saying all your characters are going to be wearing camo. That's going to be fun to draw, like the plaid jacket. That's a fair point. All right. I'm gonna play another trailer. I know it's like weird, but it's like I have to break pretty often when I'm doing flat colors this meticulous, because it gets kind of dull, and I want to keep fresh. So here is the trailer in honor of having Philip on the stream yesterday. Here's Philip Chandler's testimonial.
Hi, my name is Phil Chandler. I'm a freelance artist, illustrator, and cartoonist. Today, though, however, I want to tell you about a graphic novel I picked up recently called Jacob's Apartment. This book was both written and beautifully illustrated by Joshua Kemble. It is the story of a doomed romance that causes the main character to question his beliefs and his faith, while he's also going through other tragedies in his life. Every page has been illustrated by hand and digitally colored with painstaking detail. It is an emotional story that causes you to think and even question things in your own life. And while the story is a tragedy, it is one that I was completely entertained by and I highly recommend. You can currently find this on Amazon, or even check in with your local bookstore and see if you can order it. And while you're at it, you can also check out my Instagram at Phil Chandler Arts, and also my YouTube channel by the same name, Phil Chandler Arts. And go buy Jacob's Apartment.
All right, we're back and ready to flat. We're flatting and chatting, making this happen. Yeah, Gary was saying I'm expecting the clothes are going to be a pain on this one. Yeah, you should do it in full color, Gary. Have you thought about that? This next issue should be full color dinosaurs versus Mars bots. I'm kidding. I love it in black and white, but that wouldn't be too much to bite off, would it? Come on, join the fun. Flat coloring is so incredibly fun. Oh my goodness. It's you're just missing out on the joys. The joys. And I have a feeling I've seen Gary do color work. I have a feeling it would be meticulous if he did the colors. Because this black and white is like legit, very meticulous, very thought out, very beautiful. It's beautiful. It's like the most. I can't do Trump. If I could, I'd do like a beautiful. It's beautiful. It's very big, very bigly beautiful. Many people have told me that of all the comics in the whole world, it's easily the most big and beautiful. And people pull me aside and they say, Mr. Kemble, it's just, this is bigly beautiful. And other people's comics, they're very, very bad. They're very bad. But Gary Hodges D versus M, it's just it's beautiful. It's big. I don't know if somebody can do a good Trump impersonation. Let me know. I am not that guy. All right, so we've got these kind of circular things. I think those are going to be gold. Those are going to be gold. Gold. Gold everywhere. And a lot of people ask me, why gold on the colors? And because gold is easily the most beautiful color there is. All right, so let's forgive my bad Trump attempts there. Let's see here. We have white railings. I think we're just going to do white railings. One railing makes you larger, and one railing makes you small. All right. I don't know, man. Sometimes I make references and they're weird, and I have no idea if I'm off the cuff here. Okay. So we have some railings to do here. Some fat railings. Here's one. Here's two. I think we need to separate the railings, unfortunately, to make this kind of work. And again, we're just doing one little piece at a time. I think I'll just start with this left side and we'll see how far we get. It's about 2:30. I'm going to be going till probably about 5. Because that's who I am. I'm a go till 5 guy. I don't know. Yeah, it was fun to see Christopher stream today. I really enjoy Christopher Runciman's streams a lot. I like his attitude. He shares a lot of books. It's kind of funny. Like, I have this feeling every time I watch Christopher stream that we have like a lot of very similar tastes in books and in music. And it's like always really fun to hear him like drop like a book or a musician that he likes. And like 9 times out of 10, if I mention like a musician to him or a book, he's like all about it, like the other day he was on stream and he was showing some collage stuff. And I just instantly thought, well, you got to check. I mean, like, of course he's in Dave McKeon. And I just kind of mentioned Dave McKeon, and it turns out one of his favorite artists is Dave McKeon. I'm like, well, that makes sense, Yeah, and it's funny because like a lot of people may not even know that I've talked about like influences and stuff, but I forgot to mention Mr. Punch by Dave McKeon. When I was pretty young, I don't remember when exactly that came out. It wasn't that long ago. I guess it was long ago. It was a while ago, but I remember when I got into like the Sandman and stuff, I picked up Mr. Punch by Dave McKean and Neil Gaiman. And it was like this graphic novel about like a Punch and Judy show, but like the whole thing was like oil painted. It was like it's just this incredible book. And that had like a real impact on my perception of what could be done in comics at a pretty early age for me. And I remember there was another fully painted graphic novel at the time called Moonshadow, and I wish I could remember the artist who did it. But it was like one of the world's first, like, well, at least in the US, like fully watercolored comics. And like I think that and like Mr. Punch like really opened my eyes. Like Mr. Punch probably a little later than Moonshadow. Because I think Mr. Punch I was probably maybe 15 when I picked that up, but like it profoundly impacted just the way I was viewing comics, because it was one of those comics that like opened the windows to the idea that comics can be art. Like they don't have to just be like pop culture stuff. Like you can do like real crazy artistic stuff with comics. And anyhow, Gary said, just heard a quote for everyone's consumption. Art is a highly sensitive people reporting to everyone else what life is like for them. Yeah, that's a fair point. I could see that. I do tend to think that we're all a little sensitive as artists. Some of us might have like rougher exteriors, but like I think in general, like we are like a bunch of softies, you know. Um, I feel like most of us wouldn't be trying to express something if we didn't feel there was something worth expressing, And art is expression. So cue Madonna's Express Yourself, okay? That's what I've been getting at here, okay? That's where I'm trying to go. Okay, let's see here. She's wearing gloves. I know it seems strange to have like a very highly white audience, but unfortunately it's like, this is European. I think maybe I'll darken some of this skin tones, but the era, I hate to say, would probably have mostly been, a highly white audience. Not saying that's great, but that's just kind of the nature of like, I think this area. However, I think I should darken just a few of the skin tones to maybe indicate a little bit of variety there, as much as I can kind of like historically permit, like, I don't know if that makes sense. All right. And I think we'll go back. I'll try to remind myself to have variety in the skin tones a little bit. People are not all the same. And then we're just kind of deselecting skin tones at this point for this entire row. So we're knocking out the row. And I think we want to do, I think I missed the, I accidentally filled it over some of the whites here. And again, not everybody's eyes need to have like whites in them, but we want to try to get as much of this detail on during the deselection process here of the colors. So now we'll get into some color tones. Let's start top right, because I think that'll be a little quicker. Okay, so we'll do this and then just kind of see if we can find, maybe this dress is like more of a yellowish. I like that. A yellowish affair. I think this gentleman's going to have more kind of lighter tones. And then I think we'll do for like his shirt, like a lighter tone too. Gary, how's your script coming? Like, I thought, are you at the point of script phase, or are you just kind of doing outline work? Because I know that Gary had talk of potentially starting some stuff. I don't know how public I want to be there. Also, Jim, at some point, I'm going to try to make time to make an Accountability Buddy logo. I want to make the little bear logo for Accountability Buddies. I just don't have time. But it's very important. Like, one of the most important things I think any of us could do is a nice Accountability Buddy bear. Because what is life without an accountability buddy, you know? And we're going to go ahead and do this hair as brown. I realized she has a high... I accidentally did the skin tone, and it shouldn't be. So there we go. Now we're going to have this dress. This might be white up here, like it's lace or something. And then we might do like lace here, and let's do... Gary was saying, while I wait for... Oh, sorry. This is a lot longer. He said, I've got a fat outline, and I've spread it to a few people to get their thoughts before I charge ahead with the first draft. And he said, so while I wait for thoughts, I'm just continuing to do research and collect reference materials. Nice. That's how it starts. It starts kind of chaotically. Okay. We're going to do... I kind of like that tone, weirdly enough. That's pretty cool. Now we'll deselect this dress and we'll move on. And I think we'll do, this lady is kind of older, so I'm going to have her hair kind of more of a gray. There we go. And now she's going to have, oh, we almost missed part of that. He's going to have hair that's a little darker. And we're just going to kind of work our way through this entire crowd. And I think her hair will be the same color. And then we'll have more like an indication of like black hair. But again, like the blacks are going to be color filled a little bit. And this is going to be here. And I noticed that like in front of his nose, we're going to need like a little bit more to kind of work with there. Okay. Let's do red here. Get that nose taken care of. Let's save so that I don't have to redo all this work. And I think, I think we might go for like another 15 minutes. I'm going to try to finish this part, and then I think I might actually break from stream after we finish this row. And maybe I'll come back on in a bit, because I am starting to feel myself wane. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, when you have like tons of energy and then you're like, ugh. That's where I'm at. Which makes sense, because I was up a little late working on the page. This guy had a huge bow tie, and I kind of want to continue that huge bow tie. Long live the bow tie. This man has like a kind of shirt collar. I think this lady will have more color to her here. And then we're going to have this man. He's going to have, let's see here. Just try some colors. Whew! My computer can't keep up with me here, guys. So he's going to have like maybe this tone of suit, and we'll pick another tone in a second if my selection tools don't die, because my computer memory can't keep up. Okay, here we go. So I hope you guys are having a good day, and I hope that as I've been streaming, hopefully you guys have been able to get some stuff accomplished. I think that if you're able and you've been watching this, if you could hit that like button, that would be greatly appreciated. It goes a long way. Kind of helps people find these streams and stuff like that. I'm trying to think of what we'll call the topic for this stream, because I have to do titles for these things. And I try to be pretty quick about it, like get the title up as quickly as I finish. So maybe it'll be about flat coloring, talking about good faith, Jim's Freestyle Hip Hop. Maybe that'll be called what it's called. Because Jim did bust some rhymes earlier. He was busting rhymes left and right. The movie Ghostbusters was originally written about Jim Lujan, and it was called Rhyme Busters. And then it got revised later on. They're like, maybe this will appeal to Hollywood if it's not like as many rhymes being busted as are being busted by Jim. I like this. I like this tone if it's kind of set back a little bit. So we'll almost make that one flat thing. Because again, each of these is like a tiny little figure. But this will make, like, these little details make a big difference, Maybe it's like, I don't want every thing to kind of have the same tone. So maybe this one's here. And then maybe this one does like a mild variation on that. Like, I don't want it to be red. So maybe it goes to like a different shade of black or whatever. Even though it's not black, it will read as black. And then we'll do this. And I think we're done with the first row of what will be many rows of this crazy building. Let's see what it looks like with shading. And what we'll do is we'll fill the areas we haven't hit yet with magenta. And we'll say to be continued. So we're getting there, guys. We're getting there slowly but surely. So I know I was aiming to like do this stream till like 5, but I think I need to take a break for like an hour. So I will see you guys on the next live stream. I really appreciate you guys. Thanks to everybody who's tuned in and kept me company while I started Flat Colors on the page that will not die. And I will see you guys on the next live stream. If you haven't picked up Jacob's Apartment or Two Stories, please consider it. If you have read those and you want to leave a kind review on Amazon or Barnes & Noble's website of those books, that would be greatly appreciated. And the easiest thing, if you don't want to do any of that, is just hit the like button. And I will see you guys on the next live stream. I appreciate you hanging out. And I will see you guys either before or after Oppenheimer. If after Oppenheimer, I'll have to let you know what I thought. All right. Have a good one, guys. And I will see you on the next live stream. Bye.